Oh boy, I'm excited to share this update with you. This is a case that you've been following from the beginning with me, and I have a ruling in my hand. Spoiler alert, we won. Avi Mini for Rebel News in Melbourne, Australia. Again, as promised, to catch up with the notorious Nick Patterson, one of Victoria's most well-known freedom fighters. And you guys, if you've been following us since COVID days, you'll know Nick very well, and you should know his case. Just to revise on what happened, Nick and his friends, a group of friends, were at a protest where you were ordered to head back to home. You complied with the police order, and 10 metres from your car, police pounced on one of your friends, Mr. Reeves. Mm-hmm. You guys went to back him up, and you were beaten and left with a popped out shoulder and jailed for, how long was it?
29 days.
29 days, and on trial for some really serious charges, violent offences against police, which carry significant jail time. Firstly, most people in the cases, including Mr. Reeves, they've had the cases dropped against them. You, somebody that they really disliked, and I'm not just saying that, the body-worn camera showed that you were a target throughout it. They wanted to go all the way, and you've just had an incredible win in court.
I have, yes.
Tell us about it.
So we did a 5-day pre-trial hearing, which is it's basically the hearing before you go to trial. And we raised what's called a Section 138 application under the Evidence Act. Basically, we made an application to have all of the evidence removed or deemed inadmissible.
On what grounds?
That the police essentially targeted us, and they deliberately committed the crimes so that they could get the reaction which they could then use to prosecute us.
Spoiler alert, I'll go to the last point in the judge's ruling at the end, final point 106. As I have said, I rule that this evidence is inadmissible at trial. That includes both the video footage and the statements by police. I love the thank you at the end.
Yeah.
But that's incredible. I don't see how they can have a case now without any evidence.
They can't.
Well, let's look at some of the judge's statements. Point 70, I'm also satisfied that the accused acted as they did in direct response to the unwarranted violence perpetrated on Mr. Reeves, so your friend, which they first observed before taking action. So the judge is talking about when police crossed the road and punched your friend in the face.
Multiple times too.
As they ran forward, the accused were met with physical intervention by police members who sought to stop them, and they fought back before being overpowered and brought to the ground and handcuffed. And also dislocated shoulder. You didn't look like you were in a very good place. I did see you the next day. You were in a sling before you were taken away to jail. In other words, I am satisfied that by their unlawful violence, police initiated the response by the accused, which underlies the charges they now face. This is incredible stuff.
Then it gets better. So let's go through it a little bit. So the judge, she focused on, and she made some statements about the statements by the police, including the port leader. So Senior Sergeant Chapman. So he was like the head of the day for the port, for tactical policing. This is what he said. I observed a male who I now know to be Jason Reeves, who was wearing a distinctive fluoro wind cheater and black pants, failed to stop when he observed the police line. Then the judge said, from the footage, it is clear no line had in fact been formed for Mr. Reeves to see, or that he saw one. Indeed, no police line across the footpath on which he was walking was evident at any stage of the footage of the confrontation. Mr. Chapman continued, I observed leading Senior Constable Gabb push Reeves away from the line, at which point Reeves menaced police in a threatening stance and pushed port members away. And the judge just said, in fact, on my observation on being pushed, Mr. Reeves took a further step back away from the police and stayed away with his arms relatively down while police advanced upon him. He took no threatening stance. Mr. Chapman continued, verbal directions were given to Mr. Reeves to get on the ground. However, he refused to comply. I saw Senior Constable Gabb attempt to effect the arrest of Reeves using standard contact tactics, mainly contact head control. However, Reeves resisted and broke free of his grip. Reeves immediately escalated his use of force, throwing a combination of punches at port members with his left and right hands. Following the punches, I grabbed hold of Mr. Reeves' arm and assisted other port members, pulled Reeves through the police line and forced him to the ground. The judge says, I find Mr. Chapman's statements to be disturbingly different to the scene revealed by police footage and containing no mention whatsoever of the 2 punches he clearly inflicted upon Mr. Reeves. The footage contained no escalation of violence by Mr. Reeves involving a combination of punches, nor was Mr. Reeves told to get on the ground. Nor was he pulled through a police line, but was down where he stood. I have read other police statements in relation to this confrontation and found them to be similarly inaccurate when compared to the body cam footage.
Mate, it's insane. It is insane that the judge is straight up calling police out for lying. Perjury.
It looks that way. Now have a look at this. The judge, she had to make a decision whether or not there were grounds to remove all of the evidence and deem it as inadmissible. It's basically like, in simple terms, if the police bash somebody up to get a confession, that confession would not be deemed as inadmissible. So she's agreed with that. She's agreed to some degree. And she said here that at very least, in my view, the impropriety by police was reckless. The actions of Mr. Reeves and the accused during the day presented no threat to police and did not warrant the violence they eventually inflicted upon Mr. Reeves. Given the briefing police received in relation to Mr. Patterson, it should have been very clear to police that in threatening Reeves as they did, they would most likely incite a response action by Mr. Patterson. Now, they received a briefing, this massive briefing talking about me. It even had all of my previous addresses, everything about me, about my peacemaker group, that I was a professional fighter. But it mentioned that I would use force if I believed I was being unlawfully treated, or any of our group or members of the public. And I'm paraphrasing that because I don't have that document in front of me, but that's what she's referring to.
You know what I find incredible in all that? I remember at the time when you were arrested, your detractors were online, and they were saying they were gathering that evidence to I saw them. They want to supply it to the police prosecution, as in, look, he's talked about it in the past, how you can fight police if they unlawfully arrest you. And here the judge has gone, I've seen it, which only proves your point better. It shows that, in her words, that they would most likely incite responsive action by Mr. Patterson. I've got to say, this is incredible, and I think, for those that doubted you, this is it.
Well, this is the thing, right? So many people have said, oh, you can't fight the police, you can't use force. Mate, I punched a bunch of police officers, and I punched them to stop them from bashing up my mate. This idea that you can't use force is absolutely ridiculous. I knew that because I was training all of our peacemakers to understand sections of the Human Rights Charter, the Crimes Act, 322K of the Crimes Act, that you can use force, and you can use force not just to defend yourself, but to defend somebody else that's being assaulted. We all understood this in our group. All of those members understood it. So when the police used violence, they knew we can use force back because we need to stop these police assaulting our mate, which is exactly what we did. And the judge agreed. Actually, on the 5-day pre-trial hearing, she said something to the effect of that our use of force was not disproportionate, and that and it was reasonable when the police were assaulting our mate Jason Reeves, because he was cross-examined by the prosecution and our barristers as well. So the judge says here that I am satisfied that in the way that police behaved towards Mr. Reeves, he was subjected to arbitrary arrest and detention. So I mean, that's huge. And she states that she is satisfied that the police failed to have regard to the grounds and procedures established by law in the way they arrested Mr. Reeves.
So, mate, where to from here?
Well, there's a number of things, I've got...
Please tell me you're suing them for this.
Oh, 100%.
That's all we want to hear.
I need to do a civil case against the police, and I need to also lay criminal charges against particular police officers. That's what needs to happen. All those people that said you can't win, Nick, and I had lots of people saying this daily.
It's all on footage. You can't take a swing at a police officer and expect to beat the charge, right? Now, my professional opinion, I'm not a professional, Lucky Lance's opinion on Nick Patterson's case, how it'll turn out in court, if it goes real good, he's f***ed. Either way, he's f***ed. You heard it here first at Lucky Lance, the only honest person on Facebook.
So I just want people to, first of all, know that you can actually beat the police. You can throw punches. We have every right to defend our mates. Remember that. It doesn't matter how much fear they want to cause you and how many threats, how much they want to stack you with a multitude of charges that didn't happen. Hold your ground, and if you do, you will win. You've just got to be staunch and never give up on doing what's right and standing up for your mates.
If you think it's important for the world to hear the outcome of this case, make sure to like, comment, but most importantly, share it far and wide. Because do you remember at the time when Nick and his friends got bashed and he got locked up for a month, how the mainstream media ran the story over and over, demonizing the group? Now, radio silence. So it's up to you guys to get the truth out there. And then, if you want us to focus on a lot more of these stories, content, local content, stories about people from here, by people from here, make sure to head over to buildourstudio.com. It's the most exciting project we have going on at the moment. We're building a state-of-the-art studio in which we can talk to Nick every single day if we have to. Buildourstudio.com. All the details are there. Check it out and get behind us in this amazing project.